The sun hung mercilessly overhead, pouring golden heat onto the cracked sidewalks of the bustling city. On the corner of a crowded street, where honking cars, impatient footsteps, and the cries of street vendors formed a symphony of chaos, stood a frail man with a rickety ice cream cart. His name was Rehmat Ali, a man in his late 50s with silver streaks in his beard and deep lines etched into his sunburnt skin. His shirt, once white, was now faded and patched. A loosely wrapped cotton turban shaded his brow, but the sweat still trickled down his face, soaking his collar. Every morning, Rehmat wheeled out his old ice cream trolley, paint peeling off, the little bell barely working, and stood at this exact corner. He didn't need a clock. His rhythm was the same as the city's: rise with the sun, work till dusk, eat little, sleep little, and pray for the next day to bring a few more sales. Children loved him. Not because his ice cream was the best, but because he always smiled. Even when they didn't have enough money, he would say, "Bas dua main yad rakna," and hand over a cone with a twinkle in his tired eyes. Some office-goers passed by him daily. Some ignored him. Some gave him a polite nod. But no one really saw him. He was a fixture of the street, like the peeling paint on the lamp post, or the pigeons nesting in the traffic light box. One child in particular used to stop and wave, a little girl, no more than 5, in a crisp school uniform, her backpack bouncing as she skipped by with her mother. Her name was Aania, though Rehmat never knew it. She often looked at the cart with longing, but her mother always tugged her away. "Chelo beta, donde hath se kalada hai," the mother would say. Still, every day, Aania smiled and waved. Rehmat always rang the little bell on his cart just for her. That smile gave him warmth on days when he had no customers. On days when the pain in his knees was unbearable. On days when he wondered why life had dealt him such a harsh hand. He had lost his own daughter years ago, to illness, poverty, and helplessness. Maybe that's why he liked seeing this girl so much. She reminded him of a time when he had been more than just an old man behind a cart. That morning had begun like all others. Rehmat had cleaned his cart, packed it with vanilla, mango, and strawberry ice cream, and pushed it to his usual spot. The city was alive with its usual chaos. He wiped his brow and adjusted the tattered umbrella over his cart. He had just handed a cone to a little boy when he saw her again, Aania. She was across the road, her tiny hand wrapped in her mother's. She saw him and waved excitedly, her little shoes skipping forward. But something was different this time. Her hand slipped from her mother's, and in a flash of innocence and excitement, she bolted across the road. Rehmat's heart stopped. A large black SUV was speeding down the lane, its horn blaring, the driver not slowing down. In that split second, everything froze. The city noise, the sweat on his brow, the aching in his legs, it all disappeared. All he could see was that little girl running, and that car rushing toward her. Time moved strangely in that moment, like the world had taken a deep breath and forgotten to exhale. Rehmat's eyes were locked on the little girl, her ponytail bouncing, tiny arms outstretched toward him like he was someone she knew, someone she trusted. In her innocent mind, he was just the kind man who rang the bell on the ice cream cart. She didn't see the black SUV hurtling toward her. But Rehmat did. Without a second thought, instinct kicked in. His old legs, stiff from decades of standing and walking, moved with a force he hadn't felt in years. The boyish agility of his youth came back for one last moment. He leapt forward from behind his cart. Ice creams forgotten, coins rattling, the cart tipping over as he sprinted into the road. People gasped. A vendor across the street dropped a basket of oranges. A rickshaw screeched to a halt. Someone screamed, "Baki!" Aania's mother froze, her scream caught in her throat. And then, impact. Not the one everyone feared. In the very last second, Rehmat's weathered arms wrapped around the little girl, shielding her fragile body as the SUV's tires screeched and swerved. The car narrowly missed them, brushing so close that Rehmat's shoulder slammed into its side mirror with a sickening crack. They crashed onto the pavement, Rehmat's body hitting the ground first, cushioning the child. Everything went silent for a moment. Then, crying. Aania was sobbing in fear, clutching Rehmat's shirt. Her knees were scraped, but she was alive. The crowd slowly gathered, voices rising in panic and awe. Ari Allah. Usan bacha liya. Kia mard haya. Ambulance bulo. Uncle thick hain. Rehmat opened his eyes, gasping. His vision blurred, ears ringing. He felt a sharp pain in his shoulder, but more than that, he felt warmth. The little girl was safe in his arms. She was trembling, but unhurt. Aania's mother came running, falling to her knees beside them. She scooped her daughter into her arms, her own face wet with tears and shock. You saved her," she whispered, eyes wide, disbelieving. Muyi samaj hai nahi aya, agar aap nahi ot. Rehmat forced a weak smile, his breath ragged. Bakpan main, meri ek beti ti, wo bi ace hai dowdy ti sadak par, his voice cracked. Lekin, main us whacked nahi pohanch saka. There was a deep, aching silence. He didn't say anything more. He didn't need to. His tears said what words could not. A nearby man helped Rehmat sit up, while others tended to his arm. The SUV driver stepped out, horrified and apologetic, offering help, offering money. But Rehmat didn't look at him. His eyes remained on the little girl, who had now turned and hugged him tightly around the neck. "Thank you, uncle," she whispered. For a moment, Rehmat felt his heart beat not in pain, but in peace. That one hug melted years of sorrow, silence, and hardship. The mother thanked him again and again, but her voice trembled with embarrassment too. She realized what she had said before, about dirty hands and street people. Now those same hands had saved her daughter's life. Rehmat simply nodded. Soon, the crowd dispersed. An ambulance came. His shoulder was badly bruised but not broken. The mother took her daughter and walked away after making sure he was stable. And just like that, the moment passed. People returned to their lives. Rehmat returned to his cart, now tipped over, cones spilled, the cold slowly leaking out from his melted stock. He sat beside it, sore, aching, but strangely content. No one remembered heroes like him. But he didn't need fame. That child was safe. That was enough. Rehmat sat quietly beside his broken cart. The sun had shifted slightly, casting longer shadows across the street, but the city around him moved on, impatient, indifferent, busy. The ice cream had melted into colorful puddles, dripping onto the pavement like forgotten paint. A broken cone lay squashed beneath someone's hurried footsteps. The bell on the cart, bent from the fall, no longer rang. Rehmat touched his shoulder, it throbbed with pain. A bruise was already forming, dark and angry. But deeper than the physical ache was a familiar, silent sadness. He had done something no one else dared. He had saved a child from certain death. For a few minutes, he was surrounded by admiration and gratitude. But just like melting ice cream, that warmth had evaporated. People had gone. The woman and her daughter, they didn't even ask his name. He didn't blame them. Poor men like him weren't supposed to be heroes. They were just part of the background, part of the noise of the street. Still, he couldn't help but feel forgotten. He pushed the cart slowly back through the alleys. With each wheel turning, memories swirled in his mind, the face of the little girl, the weight of her body in his arms, the fear, the relief. That night, he returned to his tiny rented room, barely more than a shack. It had a fan that didn't work and a mat he rolled out to sleep on. On one corner, a faded photograph of a young girl rested on a shelf, his daughter, Layla. She had died when she was just 6. He lit a small oil lamp and looked at her photo. Aaj shi or ki beti bacha li, he whispered. J's 2 keh rahi t. Baba, bag kar aap tak aa jun. Tears welled up in his eyes, but this time, they weren't just tears of loss, they were of healing. The next few days passed without any change. He returned to his corner with a freshly cleaned cart, a new bell tied on. Customers came and went. Children laughed. But no one mentioned the rescue. No newspaper reported it. No camera had captured it. It was as if it never happened. Yet Rehmat was okay with that. He hadn't done it for attention. He had done it because it was right. But one evening, as he was packing up to leave, a smartly dressed man in a suit walked toward him. Behind him stood a few others, including a cameraman. "Are you Rehmat Ali?" the man asked. Rehmat blinked, unsure. "Gee, Main Hoon." The man smiled. "We've been looking for you. That little girl's family, they told us everything. The story is going viral now. You saved her life. News channels are asking for interviews," another man added. "And the family, well, they want to meet you again. Properly this time." Rehmat's heart stilled for a moment. He wasn't used to people looking at him, and seeing him. Rehmat couldn't believe his eyes. Cameras? Reporters? People calling his name. He stood frozen by his cart, the gentle evening breeze rustling his faded kurta. The man in the suit, who introduced himself as Bilal, a journalist from a local channel, smiled and gently urged him to relax. "Don't worry, sir. We just want to tell your story to the world. What you did, it's not something people see every day." Another young woman stepped forward, holding a camera. "A little girl is alive because of you. We want people to know the man behind that courage." Rehmat blinked. Main to surf ek ice cream wala hoon. Mir jaise hazaran hain. "But none like you," Bilal replied. For the first time in years, Rehmat felt a strange warmth in his chest, not from the sun or the crowd, but from being seen. Not as a poor vendor. Not as an invisible part of the city's background noise. But as a man who mattered. The next day, the interview aired on television and social media. The segment was titled, "Newspaper, the Ice Cream Man Who Became a Hero." Within hours, the story went viral. People flooded the comment sections with praise. "True heroes don't wear capes. Rehmat uncle, you restored my faith in humanity. A man who lost his daughter, saved someone else's. Heartbreaking and beautiful." Even national newspapers picked up the story. Some shared old photos of Rehmat from the interview, sitting quietly by his cart. Others posted pictures of Aania, the little girl, hugging him. Then came the unexpected. A luxury black car pulled up outside Rehmat's tiny rented room 2 days later. Aania's mother stepped out, this time dressed in a simple shower kameez, humility written across her face. Behind her, little Aania clutched a bouquet of fresh flowers. "Uncle," she whispered with a bright smile, "Yeah aap kuliya." Rehmat's eyes welled up. His hands trembled as he took the flowers, their scent mixing with the sudden salt of his tears. The mother stepped forward. Her voice cracked. "Muyi maaf kar dijiega. USS Din. Main ani apko surf apka rang, apki aukat, apka kartab dek kar juj kia." Or aapne. "Mary Beatty Keys Indagi Bachikar Muyi Sabak Shikadia." She then held out an envelope. "Ne Kapran, Dewan, or Ek Nais Indagi Kuliya Kuch Madad. Ya Surf Ek Shakriya Hai, Kuch Binahi Jo Aapne Kia Uski Mukable Main." Rehmat hesitated, then slowly accepted it, not as charity, but as gratitude. The next week, something even more astonishing happened. The city's mayor invited him for a civic award ceremony. In front of a large audience, Rehmat stood on stage, his kurta freshly pressed, his beard groomed, a soft nervousness in his eyes. A golden plaque was handed to him. Trophy, for exceptional courage and compassion, Rehmat Ali. The audience gave him a standing ovation. But amid all the applause, Rehmat's eyes searched for just one person in the crowd. He found her, Aania, sitting with her mother, clapping wildly with a wide grin on her face. She waved. He waved back. In that moment, Rehmat didn't feel poor. He didn't feel broken. He felt whole. Seen. Respected. Weeks passed since Rehmat had received the city's award. Yet his heart remained simple, untouched by fame. He still rose early, washed his cart, and served ice cream with the same smile he had worn for years, only now, people greeted him differently. Children would run to him, calling, Rehmat uncle, as if he were a celebrity. Some parents insisted on paying double. College students took selfies with him. But none of this changed who he was inside. He still returned every night to the same small room. But one morning, a knock changed everything. It was Aania and her mother again, this time with a man in a grey suit and thick-rimmed glasses. Rehmat Bhai, the man introduced himself, I'm from the Al-Noor Foundation. We help people like you who help others without expecting anything. We want to give you something meaningful. Rehmat was puzzled. Kia Matlab? The man stepped aside, and behind him stood a young boy, no older than 10, holding a small clipboard. We want you to run a small ice cream kiosk, your own. Proper license, staff, shade, even a little chair for your rest. And we'll name it. The boy turned the clipboard toward him. Painted in bold letters. Rehmat's Sweet Hope. Rehmat's knees nearly gave out. He clutched the paper, tears streaming freely. Muyi ya sab, Kyun. Aania's mother stepped forward, because your one act gave hope to thousands. You deserve to rest with pride, not with pain. That evening, a small ceremony was held outside the very park where the incident had taken place. A red ribbon fluttered in the breeze as a crowd gathered. Balloons floated above. Children clapped. Journalists returned with cameras, but this time, Rehmat wasn't nervous. He stood taller. He cut the ribbon as everyone chanted his name. On the stall's new signboard, below the name, was a line that read, because kindness never melts. As he served the first cone from his brand new freezer, Aania approached, this time holding a handwritten card. Inside was a simple drawing, a stick figure of a girl holding hands with a man and a cart. On top, in shaky handwriting, it read, My hero. Rehmat looked up at the sky, the sun warm against his face. Somewhere beyond the clouds, he could almost hear Layla's voice, his late daughter, giggling, her small hands clapping with joy. In saving one child, he had perhaps healed the loss of another. The circle had completed itself. Not with grand riches. Not with a palace. But with honor, purpose, and the love of a little girl who now called him Uncle Hero. And that was more than enough.